Hello, everyone. I'm Adam Bradford, the product director for D&D Beyond, and thank you for joining me for this week's development update and community Q&A session. We, as always, have a jam-packed lineup. We're going to talk about latest updates. We're going to talk about some upcoming development. Might even show off a little bit of some side project work that the team's been doing on a Discord bot. A lot of neat stuff going on already there. We're going to do a homebrew spotlight. So we haven't done one of those in a little while. Got some good submissions here from our moderation staff. So excited to get into that. And then for the data update, we're also going to transition into homebrew and talk a little bit about how much people are creating out there, talk about what the most added items are. We got this question last week. I thought it was a great thing that we could provide an update for, so we're going to get into that today. And then whatever time we have left, we will use that for questions. So, latest updates. Mega menus went out this week. I think we went out on Monday. So mega menus are live as a first iteration. One thing that I want to stress to the community, since we have this wonderful venue that I can stream on a weekly basis, I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but we are an agile company. Development is using agile methodology. So the thing that needs to mean to you, the fan and the player out there, is that we are going to release things, and even internally, before you guys see this, we are really taking small chunks of functionality and putting this together. We release that to you in this year. We're going to start releasing more and more of this functionality at an earlier time than we maybe would have in the past, because we are really, really keen on getting community feedback as quickly as possible. One of the adages that we really kind of ascribe to is the concept that if you're going to fail fast. And so that might seem like it's a counterintuitive thing, but it's not, because if we don't know how something validates, and all the user testing that we do internally, all the play testing that we do, once that hits the broader community, we are going to get a higher sample size of feedback than we can really in any kind of other testing program. And so when we get that feedback, the idea is that we're moving in small enough chunks that we can incorporate that feedback very quickly. We can make course corrections and adjustments as needed. And this mega menu is kind of the first step of that. So we put it out. We got a lot of positive feedback initially about the mega menu. It sounded like we were accomplishing several of our goals, and then it became very apparent that we were not accomplishing some of our other goals, and we got some feedback on that. So I'm going to deep dive that in just a little while. But then for the challenges team, we are still in the middle of that sprint where we're trying to get real math, real monsters into the encounter builder. I'm going to spill the beans here a little bit, but I saw the encounter builder in its current iteration live on dndbeyond.com a little earlier today. It is just feature flagged where no one else can see it yet, but that is how we're going to allow subscribers to have access to that when it is time for that to happen. So we are making some real progress on the encounter builder here. Very exciting to see. And then the mobile beta character sheet, we've got a header adjustment, some header adjustments going on to make this really work well between the app and the website. I love what I'm seeing with the header adjustments. And by header, I just mean, especially when you're on a phone and kind of that gray area comes up with the four, kind of really important stats, armor class, initiative, that kind of thing. And then the area where the portrait and the name is, we've kind of redesigned that slightly based on some of the feedback we've received about going back and forth between sections. So we're going to be incorporating that into what goes on with the beta sheet when we get this into the mobile app, but then also that will be reflected on the website because they're just good changes. So we're working on that, and then we are trying to get that internal build out as part of this sprint. still as well. So hopefully we'll see where we are at the end of this week, and we'll see what the update is for next week. But in the meantime, I want to discuss mega menus, where we are with the feedback, and what the next steps are with mega menus. You might not think that the main navigation of the site is this huge big feature that we should be focused on. The issue is we are focused on some really huge big new features, and we started asking the question, where is this stuff even going to live on the website as we go forward? And there is so much that is going to start coming this year that we had to really start figuring out how we were going to solve the issue of the main navigation not getting too unwieldy. And so this is where a lot of this effort and this work is going into, to try to set us up appropriately for the future and what that's going to look like. One of the constant complaints that we got of the old menu was this concept of mouse slip off. So you would be hovering over a word, you would come down that column, you would hover back over the next part of the word, and your mouse would accidentally slip off and you would have to start all over again. So this was really frustrating. We got this so much that we just could not ignore this feedback. So we had to start doing something. Mega menus are the route that we've elected to go, as a lot of websites are, modern websites today. We wanted to also simplify the navigation structure, again, to set ourselves up for the future, to make things a little more sensible as we start to introduce not only new tools and functionality, but also potentially new products and everything else down the line. And then we did want to make sure that, as everything we do on D&D Beyond, we want this to look good. We want this to not necessarily appear unpolished. So we want that appropriate level of polish to come through. And so I think that in our first iteration of mega menus, we accomplished those goals very, very strongly. Then the things that need work became very apparent, even a day into the feedback, is that the sources menu and the carousel, you can see that in this image over here, it was not working. I'm not sure. This is one of the areas, as we were going through even some of the internal testing and exploration that we were doing, this is one area that we did not have the best idea what was going to work most appropriately. There was a lot of ambiguity about what was going to be good, what was going to work. And it became apparent once we opened this up to the entire community, the sources menu was not working. And so I think I even saw that we released the new thing. Like, I think the sources menu is updated like literally right now. I think it went live about 2 minutes before I went on the air here. So we're going to take a look at that. And then we oversimplified some of the more dense menus. So looking at, in particular, something like game rules, we realized that even though our data was showing us that almost everyone was clicking on that top level item. So if it was spells, for instance, they were clicking on spells by far the most. We think that especially a lot of power users, that where we started getting the feedback here, were missing some of the breakdown of some of those submenus. So we oversimplified it. And so we're now going to be adding in those layers back on top of that again, while again, still making sure that we're hitting the goals that we need to accomplish with this restructuring. And then item order on the menus. So we've already made some changes here. People had some muscle memory about my content and creations being kind of leftmost. So we've made that change as well, and that's in place. And then image relevance. I have to admit, I agree that the images were not what maybe we wanted them to be, and so we got I was willing to kind of like let that go and see how that did. People jumped up and down about that pretty quickly. So we've already adjusted all the images as well, and we should be much more on track with that. And then, so the upcoming changes is we are going with a concept where this grid view that you see in certain parts of the mega menu, we're going to continue to use that because that's working for a lot of people. But in some of those areas that are particularly dense, sources, creations, and especially game rules. We're going to go to kind of a list view, and possibly in some of those areas, a hybrid between the two, the list and the grid view. And then we are going to update the ordering and images, like I said. So actually, I think we'll just go to the website for this one. So we've got, as you can see, creations is now leftmost here. And then we've got game rules. These two are going to see some changes in the coming days. But then we do have the sources menu. So you can see that the sources menu, this is live on ddb.ac or dndbeyond.com. So you can go there now and see that the sources menu is now taking on this list view, and you can see all the sources here in one place. So this is hopefully even easier than it was before, where you still had to go one more layer deeper with your hover of the mouse. You can literally see everything all at one time. Now, as you can see in the adventures section, especially now that Ghosts of Saltmarsh joins the ranks, we are starting, we're going to run out of space on this menu before too much longer, but we're going to keep an eye on that, and we may just continue to expand the menu because, as you know, Wizards of the Coast release schedule kind of, the cadence that they use. It's going to take a while before we have to use too much more space. But then another thing is we are going to explore the concept in the future as this becomes more and more dense of possibly allowing you to star, pin, or favorite certain sources. So if you are currently running Dragon Heist and Dungeon of the Mad Mage, you might be able to pin that to the top, where that's what's going to show up for you on your menu. So we're going to look into that in the future. For now, everything's fitting, everything is there. One of the questions that we have, and I would love to get some input directly from the folks watching the stream today, is should the sources list in the sources menu be alphabetized? And so I'm going to ask, hopefully, let's see, I'm going to post it here initially. So here's a straw. Oh, Lauren beat me to it. All right, so you got to double up there on the poll here, but I would love to see what folks are thinking as far as whether the list of sources should be alphabetized. And so we're seeing at this point in time that the yeses are kind of winning at this point. We'll see how this continues to go over the course of the stream. I'm going to ask that our moderators post that poll link in there from time to time to remind folks that are just joining to go in here and vote. And we will try to use some of this feedback to see what is going to be most appropriate for the sources menu. To be honest, I am 6 of one and half a dozen of another. I know the release cycle and how that works. And so I can find things perfectly easily that way. I could find things perfectly easily alphabetically. Even if we do go alphabetically, there is a strong chance that we will still use Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, Monster Manual, Basic Rules as the first menu items, because those are the core rules, and we would probably still continue to list those at the starting place of the source books. But we'll definitely review the feedback, and we'll see what we can do. Either way, as we find ourselves with the sources menu right now, I think we're in a much, much better place, and we do appreciate the feedback. So I'm going to go and just kind of show a little bit more about how we're going to adjust some of the other menus here as well. So the creations menu is going to start taking on, we're going to use a hybrid between the grid and the list here. So we saw that people were missing the ability to just kind of with a single click go and create a spell or go and browse all the magic items that people have created. So we're going to make that change here. We're also going to kind of do the hybrid when it comes to the game rules section. So everything that you see here on the screen is a recreation of what we had before, where you could go right to a class. On the spells, you can go to schools or to the class spell list. And then the other elements, even before, they're going to hopefully be easier to click on, but with those, we could never list all the races in any kind of list here. Feats, backgrounds, all these elements, there's far too many of these things. There's not a static enough subset that is really helpful for us. So those things will be listed in the grid part of the view. But I think that this is going to go a long way to, help some of the issues that people have had since the first iteration went live this week. As you can see, we're going to continue to iterate. The sources menu is the next part of that iteration. We will get to the creations and to the game rules menus over the course of the next several days. But we really do appreciate the feedback. And I want to be really, really clear. The feedback is incredibly important to us. The entire point of everything we're doing is we're trying to make playing Dungeons and Dragons, getting you the things that you need as a fan and as a player, as easily and most as conveniently as we possibly can. And so the feedback is important to us. We're going to continually, as we've demonstrated from the start of this thing, we're going to listen to that feedback. We're going to incorporate the feedback. And I'm really excited with the scale of the team now and how large the teams are growing. We are going to be able to do those smaller chunks and respond to that feedback at an even greater speed, and most importantly with an even higher level of quality. So really excited about what this means going forward for us. Let's talk about in progress versus upcoming. So in progress, we are still on mega menus and trying to incorporate some of that feedback. We think we're going to be in a pretty good place by next week with that. And then the content team can move on to what's next. Challenges, encounter builder, working away. I'm seeing more and more on this all the time. Very exciting. And then characters, mobile beta character sheet. We're going to have opt-in alpha access as soon as that is ready. The upcoming is the same at this point in time. These things will start shifting over as we get into closing some of the things that are in progress. But we do have a Discord DDB bot. So the way that our teams work, and I love this concept, and you'll see most software development companies do some version of this, where you have a concept of Slack time or a concept of sometimes it's called just experimental time, R&D time, a lot of different names for this out across the industry. But the idea is the team, the development teams are working on the top items on the roadmap most of the week for a day or so, kind of as a side project. They can take some other things off that roadmap that maybe they're just really, really passionate about, and they can start working on that. And so this creates a really, really good balance to allow our team members to have outlets. One of those outlets right now that has actually surprised me a good bit at how valuable and interesting this is some work on a Discord DDB bot. And I'm going to show that off a little bit here too. So hopefully in chat, we've got folks that are posting links to go join our Discord, but join us there. I think we've got 5,000 people there already that are doing all kinds of fun things. But I want to show you this DDB bot and some of the things that you're going to start to see come out of this. So I can type spell, exclamation point spell, and I can say fireball. And that is going to show the information about a fireball right here in the Discord channel. So all that information, that is also going to link out. I don't know if this is going to work or not. Oh, it is working. They're farther along than I thought. That's going to link out to the DDB, full version of that. But either way, vote if you haven't already. Vote if you haven't already. There's that. So exclamation point spell is going to reveal a spell to you. Right now, all of this is working with SRD or basic rules information only. One of the layers that we are going to need to put into place is the ability for your Discord account to be linked to your DDB account, where all of the other non-SRD content can come through this bot. But that is something that we're going to be working on. I can say monster. We can say, I'm trying to think of one of my favorites. I wonder if this is going to work. I don't know if it's named this way or not, but we'll see. Oh, it did work. Ancient brass dragon. I love my brass dragons. So you can see that this is going to output the statistical information for my buddy, the brass dragon. We can do condition. We'll say grappled. It'll tell you what's going on with the grappled condition. We can do rule inspiration. Yeah, tell you what's going on with inspiration. So all of this, so many people are starting to play D&D through Discord. This is going to be a really, really big part of that. And then very importantly, I can roll 1d20 plus my athletics modifier. And I only rolled an 11. I don't even believe this thing. Obviously something's wrong here. I'll try that one more time because we're going to say I had advantage on that. And I rolled a dirty 20. So that's a little bit more like it. So you can roll in the bot as well. So all of this is going to be really, really useful. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. We've got item, I think. So let's say Holy Avenger. Yeah, so we've got all the information starting to pipe through here. You guys are going to be able to help us alpha test this Discord D&D Beyond bot before too much longer as well. So really excited to take a look at that, and excited that the team has made this side project progress on this. And we really do encourage that because it's a great way for innovation to happen. It's a great way for people that are passionate about different kinds of technology, different platforms, for them to be able to do some things outside of the typical roadmap cycle. So, all right, let's check in. We're about 60-40 on alphabetizing. So we'll see how that continues to go over the course of this. So let's talk about Homebrew a little bit at this point. So I've got to find, I think I have, oh, here we go. I've got an email from Lauren that is showing me some links. Wow, there are too many people that emailed me yesterday. Too many emails. All right, here we go. So let's look at what we have here. This is the emotion domain by Astromancer. So the emotion domain. So Astromancer has made some really good stuff from what I've seen, and so really excited about most of the things that we see from this user. So the emotion domain has these features. Wonderful list of domain spells. Emissary of Emotion. I love that you learn Vicious Mockery. So some cleric that's very concerned about emotions is going to toy with those emotions. So the emotion domain, I think, is a really, really interesting thing. Love to hear in chat. I always do go back and catch chat on these things. What kind of deities you would see that this would fit for. So what kind of deities fit with the emotion domain? But really have been impressed with Astromancer's work and this emotion domain. So we've got now a spell from Flying Doom Bunny that is a first level spell. Thankfully, it's only a first level spell, but it is summon a guy, and you summon a commoner in an unoccupied space you choose within range. Where you summon the guy is randomly determined by the DM. If the guy drops to 0 hit points outside the material plane, it disappears and returns home. I'm very glad it returns home. Otherwise, it crumbles to dust. That's bad. The guy's friendly to you and your companions, but will not fight unless attacked. So if you ever need someone to be your friend, I recommend you check out Flying Doom Bunny's Summon a Guy spell. I imagine there would be summon a, gal, summon a, maybe that could be just summon a person. But yeah, you can make your own version of that as well. Swarm of animated books is a monster that we have here. I actually like this one quite a bit. It gave me a lot of ideas for that evil wizard's library that I've been toying with, that I'm sure will come up in one of my games soon. But we have from Simon Lukin, Simon Luke in maybe. I'm not sure how to say the username there. The Swarm of Animated Books. You guys check that one out. We have a, you know, already classic, the Invisible Wand from this one. I'm pretty sure we had several of these from Spencer Squared, an invisible wand. You have to be a bard to use it, which, I don't know. I mean, fighters can sing or, come up with ridiculous 80s sounding tunes. When a bard uses this as a spellcasting focus by singing into it, they gain a +1 to spell attacks and saving throws by channeling the spirit of Sam Riegel from across the multiverse. That is a terrifying thought, but I definitely encourage you to check out the Invisible Wand. On a little bit more of a serious note, we have a background that really stood out, the Doctor background. Now, this is not, the Time Lord background, but it is the Doctor background. And this is just a very strong, very rooted in the game world kind of background. You see that the specialty, all of this makes a lot of sense as well. A dentist in your Dungeons and Dragons world really seems pretty terrifying, to be quite honest. House calls as the background feature. Lots of thought went into the Doctor background, and this is by M.F. Jones. So check that one out too, the Doctor background. And then I think one of our moderators nominated the last one that I will show off today, which is the Sweet Tea spell. So creates enough sweet tea to provide for the daily water need for one medium-sized creature. The strength and variety of the sweet tea is chosen by the player. It remains cold for 24 hours. Now that is useful. It remains cold for 24 hours. At higher levels, the number of creatures whose needs can be met increases by 1. So this is a first level spell that all of my casters will have from this moment forward. All right, let's see. Here we are. Now, let's jump into some data concerning Homebrew. So, the most creations that we have, this is across the board for all types of Homebrew. The most creations that we have now, this is public and private. So, you might not necessarily be able to see Bruce K. Logan's entire collection publicly shared, but we have a user that has created over 860 homebrew elements. Bruce K. Logan, Kiwi Tune probably. Kiwi Tune is very close, and then Ben's 74 million or 74M is very close as well. So, to me, this seems like this should be a race, and we can see if Kiwi Tune can overtake Bruce K. Logan. But there is a lot of homebrew being created by these users: Rainwolf Heart, Hikara Ryu, Sir Herp the Derp. I like that username. Mick Trey One, Wixer Shindahet, a Shadow Stalker. So you guys are in our top 10 for most created homebrew elements. All right, let's see here. Trying to find. All right, I'm going to mute for 1 second. That old cough is still here. All good. All right. So back to homebrew. The most popular backgrounds that we see on D&D Beyond, and this is by number of times this has been added to a character, okay, so not just a collection, but to a character, is the exile background from Dr. JK. Dr. JK. So the exile background has been added 546 times. On the top of the list, the Monster Hunter by Lord Cortex. You've got the Slave from Fromtius. I actually think that Briv Steelmarrow on Heroes of the Veil, I'm pretty sure I'm using that Slave background myself there. Yeah, Slave, very prominent. Alchemist, Immortal, Adopted, Heir of a Fallen Kingdom, Wizard's Apprentice, Ancient One, and the Dark Hunter. So these are the most popular homebrew backgrounds on D&D Beyond. You guys check out this list. Most popular feats. We have Cantrip Mastery from Vipir, and then we have Battlewise by Bone Dealer, Stylized Combatant by Adrius, Acrobat. I think that one, I knew that one was really popular. Blind Fighting. Some of these are 3rd edition feats converted over. But check out these feats because they are the most popular homebrew feats that we have on D&D Beyond. The most popular spells. There is a spell called Arg by Deuter OB 92. Card Throw. Pick a card, any card. Gambit don't go nowhere where he ain't invited. So Card Throw from Dr. Z, and then Bees by Alyssa. That Bees spell, we've highlighted that before because it's just, to me, very terrifying. But these are the most popular spells. And again, these are characters using the spells, not necessarily being added to a collection, because we thought that characters using the spells maybe would indicate the actual popularity and play a little bit better. So check out these spells as well. And then the most popular magic items. We've got crossbow bolts +2 and crossbow bolts +3. This tells me that perhaps we should add official versions of crossbow bolts that are not just crossbow bolts +1. So we probably can do that, but Nightshade 11X38, thank you for filling in the gaps for us in the meantime. We've got the Belt of Returning by Joban, and then the Boots of Haste by Captain Obvious, I believe, is what we're attempting with that username with all the letters and numbers. So check out the most popular magic items for homebrew as well. And then the most popular races. So this is interesting. Several of the monster races are making an appearance here because there are still those gaps here. So we got Vampire, Gnoll. I was surprised that Gnoll was not included in Volo's Guide to Monsters, but the Gnoll is here. You've got the Werewolf. Maybe Gnolls are just too powerful, especially if you got a mine shaft full of them. Werewolf, Succubus, Dhampir. The Minotaur still has been added quite a few times. Perhaps folks have not seen the version of the Minotaur that came out in Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, or maybe they like the customizations that are happening with this homebrew. So check this out. The Vampire by Karzan, Gnoll from Badgerjaw, Werewolf from Dasher 45637. Most popular races. Then the most popular sub races. The Meadow Guard Mouse Folk. So I've seen the Mouse Folk out there. Big fan of the Mouse Folk. And you see that now one of the things here is that you're going to see that the way that the sub races are counted is if a class has sub races, that's where this is going to bubble up to the top here. So we can actually do a little bit of a comparison to see that Vampire not having sub races is showing up here. But then when we go to the sub races, that the Meadow Guard Mouse Folk actually has been added to 422 characters. So overall, from a race perspective, the Mouse Folk is on top. The Fey Touched Tiefling is very popular by Theo Brinkman. And then again from GM Corsair, the Soft Paw Mouse Folk is also very, very popular. I'm aware of the Mouse Folk. I think they are delightful. Reepicheep is one of my favorite characters in all of literature. So I'm a big fan of the Mouse Folk. And then most popular subclasses, I think this is the final bit that we have for today. But the time domain, Ancient Dragon Patron is very, very, popular here for the Warlock. So that is deriving your power from a dragon. Really, really like the theme of that. We have a Death Knight subclass for the Paladin that is also very popular. So Gaius Octavian with the time domain, Savage Vince with the other two. Check out the rest of them. Anime Swordsman, Samurai Jack. Whatever you want to build with that from Dr. Big Time, check out those popular subclasses as well. All right. I think we are at Q&A time. Let's take a look real quick at, let's see. How do I do this? There we go. Let's take a quick look at our, okay. So looks like most of you so far, anyway. I doubt that will have too much more wiggle. Think that alphabetic is a better way to sort our sources in the menu. So we'll definitely take a look at that. We'll take a look at some of the feedback points that we get from other sources as well. I can tell you that we have seen something similar with the alphabetizing from some of our other channels that we're receiving feedback from. So I could see that being the thing that is carried and being the thing that we implement. All right, so let's dig into other questions. We've got about 20 minutes. So Benet UK, will this Discord bot be available for other servers, or is it for the DDB1 only? Also, will it link Homebrew? It's too early for me to answer the question about the Homebrew piece of that, at least yet. I imagine we would be able to figure out a way for Homebrew to be there. I'm sure there are some concerns about being, querying the unbelievable number of Homebrew elements that are created on DDB at this point in time. So I'm going to have to get with the developers a little bit more to see what's feasible there. But the first part of that, as will it be available for other servers? As we get into alpha, it will not be, but the intent is absolutely by the time we hit a beta part of the Discord development, then it will be available for other servers. That is definitely the point that we're trying to get to. From Exoloot, have you thought about making some sort of shared ownership so multiple people can edit a specific piece of Homebrew? Let me think about what I want to reveal at this time. Yes, we have thought of the concept of shared ownership over elements in Homebrew, and that would likely take the form in the future of some type of grouping, whether that is publisher or guild or whatever. There would be some other layer of ownership for that Homebrew element that goes back to like I said, a publisher. So theoretically, if you're a publisher, then you would be able to send out invites similar to campaigns. Likely, again, this is a future feature, so any of this that I'm about to say could change. But you would be able to get users to join your publishing guild there, and then those users could work on any Homebrew across that. So the answer is yes, we have definitely thought about it, and I do see that as something that will happen in the future. From Melly DM, were the Homebrew stats based on ads or ratings? So the Homebrew stats is a very good question. I think I mentioned it halfway through, should have mentioned it at the start, but the Homebrew things that you're seeing here are not based on ratings themselves, but they're based on those elements being used in active play on active characters. So that was the benchmark that we decided to go with this data. We know that ratings can sometimes become inflated. We did remove certain elements of that. So, for instance, I removed the feats that I've created publicly out there. We removed Matt Mercer's stuff. So we basically removed Matt and I from all of that consideration. And those are the breakdowns that we see that have been added to characters. V2 Blast. If Artificer does come out today or tomorrow, what's our date? Okay, we'll see. If it comes out today or tomorrow, will it be on D&D Beyond only on the following Monday? So what I can tell you is that if it does come out today, it is not going to be on D&D Beyond today because we're going to have to work on that a little while. So the answer really is it is going to be on D&D Beyond as soon as we possibly can get it up on D&D Beyond. We know that people are very eager and keen to get the Artificer and to be able to use the Artificer. So I think you'll believe me when I say we care about what you guys want. And so we know that you want that. And so we will do everything that we can to get it up as quickly as possible. Paraquake. Will UA classes, there's a word missing here, I feel like, and so let me read the whole thing and then maybe I can piece it together. Will UA classes be displayed next to the other ones in the mega menu? If so, can they be toggled? So I think you're referring to the list view that we're going to with the game rules section. I can tell you, for instance, if Artificer does come today or when it comes, and we do have that available, the intent would be we would add it to the mega menu there because the inclusion of Artificer as a base class is so significant. We would include it there. We're not always going to do it for all types of UA, though. Let's see. My name is Yin. Will there be a customization option for the mega menu? Like we can choose what we do and don't want to see at a glance? Not at this time, but that is something that we would potentially introduce over time. DMW71, does the new fail fast release philosophy mean that in progress projects on the roadmap will continue to show up more quickly? That's a very, very loaded question. I'm not sure if you're intentionally trying to be tricky there, but it's a very loaded question. So, first of all, I will emphasize that our philosophy of fail fast, I don't mean to indicate that that is a new philosophy. We've had that philosophy for some time, but we have not been very staffed in order to be able to really let that philosophy shine. So it's something that's important to us. It's been important to us from the beginning. But I do imagine that you will start to see more releases this year, but it depends on what you mean in that in progress column. For instance, we've had mega menus in that in progress column for a little while. We were not actively touching that, in any kind of considerable way as we've gone through all the transition development that has been going on with our acquisition. But the team started a couple of weeks ago focusing on DDB much more, comprehensively at this time. And so mega menus did not take long to get that first iteration out, but it is a first iteration. So we are still doing another iteration on mega menus. So mega menus is going to stay in progress in that column until we feel like we constantly use a juggling analogy, or at least I do. I use a lot of analogies, but basically juggling. And so we have so many thousands of things that we're trying to focus on with DDB. We can't focus on that many. And so we are constantly juggling things. And so when we get to a point with mega menu that we think we have sufficiently thrown the ball high enough in the air that it is accomplishing what it needs to do at this point in time, that the feedback from the community is being adequately covered, and that it is doing the best it can for most of the people without dramatically more effort, then that's where we've thrown the ball up in the air a while. We're going to leave Mega Menu. That does not mean we're going to leave it forever. It's something we will come back to. Homebrew is a good example of this. We've known for quite some time that Homebrew is not in a state that we are happy about, but that, we're not ready to juggle that ball yet again. And so with Mega Menu, I do think you're going to see more releases than you've seen, particularly over the last few months with DDB. Again, we've kind of had this whole big acquisition thing happen, but you're going to start seeing more releases, but they are going to be smaller and they are going to be very focused on getting feedback as early as possible, where if we are going to fail, that is going to happen faster and faster. Dragonborn Doug, I absolutely love the new Mega Menus. Is there a chance that the cover images could be given the Hydro 74 alt cover makeover, much like the Twitch and YouTube media tabs? We will work to incorporate those as much as we can. We do want to incorporate those more and more. I'm hopeful that this year we get to some kind of system that's going to allow you to view the beautiful art that is throughout covers and interior for all these products in an easier way, image gallery style. So hopefully that's going to give us another platform that you can see that beautiful art even easier. Not half wing. Can the option for D100 get added to the die type drop down menu for Homebrew and custom actions? Current options are only from D4 to D20. That is a very good question that I don't, see any reason why we would not do that. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes, and we're going to get somebody that's watching to take a note on that, and hopefully we can get that added. Proto General, how will purchase and non-purchase monsters be implemented in the encounter tool? Can I put in monsters I don't own on the site into the encounter? That's a very good question, and we'll answer that a little bit closer to time. We're still finalizing some of the details of exactly how that will work. So the truthful answer right now is it's a moving target. So we'll share more when we get a little closer to alpha. Kamalsum, can you give us an update on AL support, especially the PHB +1 rule? The update that I can provide is, let's see, the one that I already have, that it is upcoming. It is not currently being worked on, but it is something upcoming that we hope to get to when the teams finish up some of the in progress effort here. TySQL, with the DDB bot, will it integrate with specific characters as well? Meaning you could type roll intimidation and it could roll a d20 and add that character's intimidation skill to the results. Yes, it will do that eventually. And it might even do some more exciting things than that as we move forward that I'm not quite ready to talk about yet. But yes, the idea is you will be able to have an active character, roll for that character. You can do, hopefully roll initiative. It's going to put that in. All those things are targets for us. Apparently I have a sync a little bit later. All right, so Angus.Davidson, you mentioned last time maybe allow D&D club schools groups to have slightly more campaigns. Any thoughts on universities where we teach game design that include D&D? That would qualify as a school. It is a higher learning institution, but it's still a school. So I encourage you to fill out the application on Zendesk and we will get back to you. Cosplay right. Any chance you'll make the encounters of the week available in a printer-friendly PDF file for purchase for free or nominal cost in the marketplace? We'll explore and look into that. We'll see how that goes. So in other words, I don't know at this point in time. we'll take a look. V2 Blast. I know it was mentioned in a forum thread. I think you said it, you being me, that you were planning on eventually offering other bundles besides the Legendary Bundle. Do you have any idea what sort of specific bundles you're considering offering? Example, the 3 core rulebooks, or when you might do so. I did say this on the forums, and I don't have anything that I can concretely share at this point in time, because the fact of the matter is the proposal and recommendation, the submission is on the table with Wizards of the Coast right now, and we do not have their approval yet. I hope that I'm actually able to talk to them a little bit more about that when I meet with them today. So we'll see what happens there, but we do anticipate introducing other bundle types. I think it's a matter of when and not whether that will happen, but no details that we can concretely share yet. Jabronis, would you ever hire remote devs and designers to work on the product? I personally believe that remote employees can be effective in a variety of roles. And so I would say that if you are a rock star, nothing would be off the table. But I can tell you that there are lots of boons and benefits to being co-located and to be able to literally rub shoulders with the team that you're working with. So if you are a rock star, then keep an eye out in the next couple of weeks, I'm hoping, on our job postings. Trust me, as soon as those requisitions are available, we are going to be letting the entire world know that we're hiring. We've got a lot of headcount that we're trying to hire for 2019. And I think the biggest constraint is going to be the recruiting and just getting them hired. So lots of job opportunities coming up. By all means, apply to those. And, if for whatever reason you are not willing to move to beautiful Huntsville, Alabama, where the cost of living is incredible, and all the wonderful things about this wonderful city, then it's something that I would not say is off the table, but it does not work in favor, but it's definitely not off the table. Seraphim 333, lemon or no lemon with your sweet tea? No lemon. I actually like lemon quite a bit in water, but not a fan of it in sweet tea. Excellent question. And then let's take one more look at the straw poll here. Where are you at? There we go. So straw poll. Whoops. Okay, so even a little bit of an uptick there on alphabetizing our sources. So we will take a look at that, like I said, in conjunction with the rest of the feedback that we're getting on this front. But we are certainly seeing a theme develop here, and we will pay close attention to that. We had Cosplay Right with another question. Where is the job board? I'm struggling to find it on the site. Curious to see if there's anything you're qualified for. So ultimately, we are in the process of getting that finally approved. All the requisitions approved. There are a lot of these roles, so that process is taking a little while. I'm hopeful a couple more weeks. No idea when the actual date will be, but it will be in. The DDB parts of those aren't up yet, but as soon as those come up, keep eyes peeled. You'll see it all over social media and everything else. We will let you know what that link is at that point in time. All right. I think we've got about 5 minutes. I don't know if there happen to be any other questions. I could certainly just spin on this a while. I could, sing a song for you, whatever else you might want to happen. Question here I see from Jax the Bard. Would you hire a Canadian? You're Canadian, eh? Yeah. We do not discriminate based on any factor, so Canadian will not be held against you. Let's see any other questions. How can we reach your PR or marketing team? We wanted to talk about an interview for our website. You can actually do that at press@dndbeyond.com is how you would get that. And then question from V2 Blast: if you had unlimited budget and freedom, what feature would you add to D&D Beyond? That's really, really hard because I operate in a real world, and it's hard for me to think through not having the budget that I would need. What I can tell you is that we're going to be investing a lot of money in D&D Beyond, in the coming years here. And so the feature that I would actually call out here is something that I'm not ready to talk about a whole lot yet, but it's not something that's just a pipe dream. It's something that we're going to be doing. So very excited about it. We won't talk more about it yet. Let's see. Question: are hot dogs sandwiches? No, they absolutely are not sandwiches. I don't know who would get that kind of completely ridiculous idea. Question: would you be interested in doing another AMA on D&D next? Yes, anytime you want me. I answer a lot of questions. It's kind of part of the gig here. So yeah, we can do AMAs anytime. In your is your social media manager in-house? I live in LA, but want to work with you guys. So our social media manager is our community manager, who is talking to you in chat right now, Oboe Crazy. So Lauren Urban is that. If we ever think that we might need some help on that front, we'll certainly put that out there. Let's see. Any other questions? When using Wakarusa67, how do I get Twitch chat to stop? I can't figure that out. Keep scrolling when I'm reading. Okay, maybe I went up high enough now. Let's see. Melancholy Kobold, could you have alphabetization as a setup option? Probably not at this time. Anytime you introduce those kinds of preferences, it complicates the architecture to a point that it has to be maintained. And we want to run as lightweight as we possibly can. And for something like that, we have found in the past that it's better to go with, the best information that we have and make the decision. And then the muscle memory and just the cognitive, load of it being alphabetized versus release order. Over time, the people that wanted it and were release order are going to get so used to the alphabetized list that it's going to be a non-issue. And so instead of us spending development time building those kind of preferences in, our preference is to go with the best that we can that will cover the most of the bell curve, and then allow the muscle memory to kick in over time. Feeling roguish in regards to penning source books. Will there be an option to bookmark adventure sources if you're running them? That is essentially what I mean by penning. Let's see. One more. Might have time for one more. Hot dogs or sausages? Okay, I can go with that. It's not a question, but question. This is a good one. Who would you rather have win the presidential run, Sam Riegel or Liam O'Brien? I love both of those guys. I think that they bring certain strengths to each of those. Since it is not actually president of D&D Beyond, and since it is president of the D&D Beyond Party Planning Committee, I do have to admit that Mr. Riegel is kind of, he's a little outlandish, a little eccentric, a little, of an outlier when it comes to the human race. And so I would be curious to see what kind of party he could come up with if he wins the election. So I'm not saying that I support him, but I'm just saying that's where I am. I can't actually vote for this. So all of you are going to have to vote when that time comes. Appreciate everyone joining me today. Thanks for the feedback this week with Mega Menus. We're going to continue to iterate. We'll see you guys next week. I will be at GaryCon, and we're going to try to stream from GaryCon. So we'll see how that goes. Might be a little bit of a disaster, but hopefully it'll be a beautiful disaster. We'll see you next week.